Monster Hunter Rise. So I am the only one who has got this game, I believe. Is that right, Mike?
So why did you say we will talk about it?
Well, I
You
will
will
talk
talk
about
about it. Okay. I
So
don't
yes,
have it, no.
Monster Hunter Rise released this week, and it is going to be an absolute smash hit. It is already amazingly, I don't even know how this is possible, sold out in Japan. You cannot get a physical copy of this game. And even some workplaces have actually offered employees the day off for the whole company because so many people were taking sick days on the
What?
Friday.
Wow.
So just for clarity, I have never played a Monster Hunter game. Like I've dabbled a tiny little bit, but I never played Monster Hunter World. I do own it, but I've never played it. So I'm pretty new to the franchise, and I played a little bit of the demo, but I have to say, even though I'm only a couple of hours in, I already think this game is going to be like totally sink its hooks into me. It is like, yeah, there's something about it. It's just, I love the sort of the style of it. And the one thing that I did want to flag is I did say earlier that I was almost debating maybe I should play this later if a Switch Pro does come out because it's going to be, more of a powerhouse. I am amazed at how good this game looks on the Switch. So I was playing a docked mode. I think it's the best looking Switch game that I've seen. It looks insane. Like it genuinely, I'm like, how are they doing this? It looks absolutely incredible. And one thing I would say as well is if you haven't played the game before, I do think the demo does a good job at showing you the game, but I just found it so much easier to get into the game through the actual main game versus playing the demo. I think the demo could actually put some people off the game a little bit, whereas I felt like, actually playing the game and it's sort of trying to introduce the concepts of the game, like it's quite, good. And probably one of the other things that I'll just flag is like from a difficulty perspective, I thought it was really funny listening to so many people talk about Monster Hunter and sort of saying this game is probably a little bit on the easy side for Monster Hunter, people not even dying. I think I tried my first quest, like main quest, and I died like straight away. Like I was like carted off a few times and then like lost the whole quest. So it does actually remind me a little bit like, and don't take this wrong way, but something like Dark Souls where, and I've just realized as well, I've started doing that Dark Souls thing where people talk about every game being like Dark Souls, but where, when I first started playing Dark Souls, the combat was kind of like almost impenetrable. And now when I play it, it's like I have it in my mind, like what I need to do, the animation timing. And, Monster Hunter does have those elements where, you have to be very careful about the animation timing to avoid attacks. And, I don't even know about stuff like, grinding the sword and your weapon to actually make it sharper, and then that actually does more damage. Like I'm pretty clueless about all these things. So
Can you tell me one thing as well? Speaking of swords and weapons and stuff, one thing I found confusing in the demo, and in World as well, is are they like different class? Like the weapon types are so different
yes,
in how they play that I was confused, to be honest. And I
yeah.
think that actually put me off the demo.
So there's
And
not like classes, but there's definitely different weapons. So there's 14 different weapons, and they do play
quite
extremely
differently,
differently.
right?
Yeah.
So that actually was a bit overwhelming for me right off the bat. And I guess once you play the game and you get used to what's what, but it was so overwhelming because I actually restarted the game with multiple weapon types just to kind of get a feel for what I would prefer.
Yeah.
But it just felt like it was overwhelming.
And that is like, if I had my first impressions review as a new player, my one word would be overwhelming. Like playing the game, it blew my mind the amount of systems it has, things you can do, like buddies. You got the palicos.
Welcome to Monster Hunter, my friend.
Yeah, it's like, and given that this is like, what is it, Swinny? Like the 8th generation of Monster Hunter games.
Oh, God, I wouldn't know. Yeah,
some ballpark like that, right? It feels like they keep building on the franchise and not taking things away. And I understand like people way more into the depths than I am that World was probably the biggest like quality of life, biggest improvement, biggest change to the series, streamlining and stuff. And this, I think I've heard people say it's a bit kind of like coming back a little bit, simplifying some things. But it just feels like it's had so many generations of add-ons that just playing it, I'm like, what the hell's going on? There's so much stuff that's going on, so many things to manage, like buffs, like all the way through the world itself, and just like how that affects your combat. And I didn't even know stuff like there's combos in the combat until I went into the training area, and I'm like, oh, okay. There's actually like, you have to hit these buttons in certain timing order as well.
Yep.
And then the timing is really critical on how much damage you do. And then also you can take over other monsters. So
Have you tried the insect glaive yet?
no,
Because
but
oh my
everyone
god,
talks
like
about
that is a one where that is not a beginner weapon. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, I've heard people say that as well. So I would just shout out to people that, don't get disheartened if you feel this game's really difficult or like it's hard to get your head around. I think it's the kind of game that it probably takes you like 20 hours to get your head around the combat and to start to become proficient. Because I must admit, like when I heard people talk about it, they're like, oh, this game's easy. And I don't think I'm great at games, but I'm not terrible. And playing it, I'm like, what the hell? Like I'm dying all the time in this game. And I think it's just because I'm just not doing the right combos. I'm not doing the right damage. Even for me, like just targeting the monster, I'm like, how the hell do I target it properly? Like it's something in the settings to change.
Well, because
yeah,
by default, like historically, that's not the style of Monster Hunter. But as you've mentioned before, integot, they've kind of started to include some of those elements. It's not traditionally like a lock-on game.
Yeah, so you can target a monster, Mike, but the lock-on, and it was introduced in like Ocarina of Time, the lock-on where you will basically do loops around the monster, like circles around the monster. That's not the default of like the setting.
Because I was wondering, I'm like, wow, cool. I might give the demo a go again and try that.
Yeah, you should. And it's like, I see the pros and cons to it. I kind of wonder maybe I shouldn't play it like, maybe I should try to get my head around how they want to play it. But yeah, like this game, I get a feeling like I'll get really into this game. Because it does feel like the combat is way better than I knew the combat was. Like it's quite sophisticated.
That's all
actually.
the game. That like not all the game, but that's the game. The combat is the core of the game.
Yeah, and it's got that element that I like, which is like that. Like this kind of game is the grind that I like, where it's go out there, adventure a little bit, kill some monsters, grab some parts, upgrade your weapons, upgrade your armor, and then that will then give you the advantage over other monsters. And man, the game has got so much to it. Like I'm not even doing it half justice. Like there's crafting in the game as well. There's just like so much to the game. I feel like it'll take you about 20 hours just to get your head around the game and the systems and everything like that.
So you
then enjoy it.
So you said that you're not that far into it. I mean, it only came out this week, but have you gotten to a Rampage yet?
No, I haven't tried that out. I want to do the Rampage. You can do Rampage training.
Because that's what I've heard. That's the biggest new addition to this game in terms, other than the traversal, like the wirebug stuff. Rampage is kind of one of the biggest new additions, and I've heard mixed things on that. Some people love it. Some people think it's just feels unnecessary. It's almost like a tower defense mixed with the traditional Monster Hunter gameplay.
Yeah.
So I was just interested. I'd like to hear an update when you eventually kind of go through a few of those in the future.
Yeah, I think once you eventually pick up the game later the year, and we'll play it multiplayer, maybe we'll loop back, do a 6 months after launch review of it or something like that.
Yeah, and it's the kind of game that gets regular updates. So if anyone that doesn't want to pick it up right away, there's still going to be a very healthy community of people playing in 6 months' time because they add regular updates. So.
And I do love the verticality of the game. Like, it does blow me away that the other games aren't like this. So, and the map is very much built around the verticality as well. So
World had a bit of it, but not to this level. You didn't have the wirebugs in World, but you still had some levels had like maybe four or five different levels. But I've heard that this one is much crazier. So.
Yeah, so I mean, the game does live up to the hype for me. Like, I really have enjoyed it so far, and I think it's only going to get better. Like when you guys, or I don't know if you're going to pick it up, Mike, but when you pick it up, Swinny,
I'm considering it absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, let me know because it's a very multiplayer orientated game. So I think it'd be really really cool to play.
I've heard they've also made the multiplayer much better in the way it works than World, and World had already improved some of it, but it still had some archaic. Menu systems and things.
Yeah, I think we had some issues with
and
that,
I've also heard that as a direct comparison, that the loading in this one is super fast compared to
Yeah,
previous.
the loading is insane. Like you don't like this game is like I don't know how it's really on the Switch. Like the game is you start playing it, you don't even have a moment to check your phone or something like that.
Yeah, and that's
Like you load
definitely
into the world, you load in
Wow.
like around the level. It's just like instantaneous. It's wild.
yeah. Like in World, you would like accept a quest, and then there'd be a countdown, and that'd give you a chance to go like to the chef and get upgrades. I know that stuff works differently in this one, but it's like it's definitely you had the time in that one, so it's interesting that they've taken this step, which is good. Like there's no bad downside to that whatsoever.
Yeah. So no, really highly recommend people picking this up if they are interested in it. Like if they're new to Monster Hunter. I think if you're already into Monster Hunter, you know where you stand on that. But I think especially for people who are new to it, you know, I think I've enjoyed it so far, and I really think I'll get really into this game. So really recommend picking it up. All right, well, let's wrap up for this week.